it's in my head. So I'm shaking off the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I tried everything I can. Now I'm shaking off the rust. Bang my head against the wall. Try to hold a smile, but I'm sick of it all. Everyone with something to say. Better hold my tongue or I'll make a mistake. Show 'em what I do, show 'em how it's done. Never turn it down, never gonna run. I learn. You think too much, it's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust, and you got no trust. It's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I tried everything I can. Now I'm shaking out the rust. You think too much, it's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust. You got no trust, it's in my head. So I'm shaking out the rust. I think I broke just a little bit. Walk through the fire, made it back again. Lord knows I tried everything I can. And I'm shaking out the rust. Yeah, I'm shaking out the rust. Yeah, I'm shaking out the rust. 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 The rust. Yeah, I'm shaking. That was good.
Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thousands watching all over the world. This is Rolo the Puerto Rican Pistolero coming to you live from beautiful Puerto Rico. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen, in the Puerto Rico headquarters. It is a pleasure to see you all here. We made it alive, folks. We made it alive. It was the roughest flight that I've been on pretty much ever. It was pretty exciting. But I'm glad to be here. The old man is also here for a couple of more days. So we'll be coming to you live with some Fortnite with La Familia tomorrow at the usual time. Do I sound a little bit muffled? We'll see if it's this, that, or the other thing. I'm not sure how everything is working right now because this is the different setup. Is the sound weird? Let's see how it is. Let me know if that, whoa, that's probably like super loud, I'm sure. Do we have multiple microphones here? Sometimes that's what happens with this thing. I wonder if the camera is picking up. No, the camera's not picking it up right now, so that should be good. Allergies? No, there shouldn't be allergies or anything like that. Maybe it's this micro Is that better? Why would that be on the desktop audio? I don't know why that would be desktop audio. Try playing mariachi music and see if that helps. I don't see why it would. That would be a little bit weird, wouldn't it? I guess I got to plug this thing. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now it does sound. All right. Well, we'll go with it that way. I'm not playing any videos or anything like that right now anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I guess using these headphones, it didn't like it because it's got its own thingamajig. No, you're not deaf, Renaissance boomer. You may call yourself a boomer, but your hearing is not all gone. All right. Looks like that's working. Well, too bad. I can't hear myself, but I don't need to hear myself right now. So, yes, I made it back. I am alive. I'm back in the Puerto Rico HQ, and all is well. Like I said, the old man is here. He's roaming out somewhere out there, probably hanging out with the cats. So, there we go. Thank you, Den Haken. What are you guys plotting? I'm going to take a more casual approach today because, let's be honest, what would I be ranting about this week? It's the same thing that's been going on for the last few weeks at this point. So we're going to take a more positive spin and approach to this rant. Get it right. You're a retarded boomer. I don't think that you're retarded, old Renaissance boomer. There are a lot of people that are, but I don't think you're one of them. So, yeah, what's been pretty much going on the last few weeks? We know it's been Operation Epic Fury. It's been the battle for the SAVE Act. It's the same old BS shenanigans that we've been dealing with for the last few weeks. I don't know where any of this is going to go. And at this point, I'm just at that point where it's like, this is all in the Lord's hands anyway. So really, what is there to say at this point? What's the plan? I still think that the plan is what I had originally stated, but it's clear that it seems like the repercussions that come with things like that were just not, we're not completely followed through. So that's pretty much how I feel about everything that's going on. It seems that it really is just business as usual when it comes to politics, right? We're seeing the entire Trump coalition completely fall apart. And I really don't know whether it's entirely a psyop, whether it's the deep state on one side, whether everything is just completely jacked up. So really, I don't trust anything and I don't trust anyone right now. And I mean, is that really any different than it's ever been before? I really don't think so. And that makes everything so much more difficult right now because there are clearly delineated enemies right now. I think it's obvious that there are a few different enemies that we have to deal with, right, as the American people. And I think we're dealing with our enemies within and we're dealing with our enemies without. And our enemies within and without are colluding with one another. Part of it is the deep state that we've been dealing with for a long time, which we know that they're embedded in the intelligence agencies, the bureaucracy, all of that stuff. The Democratic Party is completely evil and retarded, and they're gay, evil, retarded, Islamist, communist, and pretty much everything else that you can think of. And that's really the state of the Democrat Party. The Republican Party is about 2/3 bad, corrupt, greedy, and they just don't give a crap about their own voter base. And it seems like that's really where it is. Now, when you go to the commentator space, it just becomes more and more apparent every single day that most people that maybe you trusted in the past are either full of crap now. They've jumped off the deep end because they've got some sort of axe to grind, because I think that they have become so reliant on a narrative that they're essentially willing to see the United States fail as long as they're right about it. And I think this comes with what happens in the grifter space, right? I think that for years, let's go with the right wing commentary space. We saw such a huge rise of commentators, podcasters, news personalities, whatever you want to call it, influencers, that I think that grew in the era of the pre-2016 era. So we're talking about the rise of wokeness. Not so much in the entertainment space, because I think a lot of the entertainment space stuff, we know it's basically like a grift, but it's not as big of a deal because it when it comes to daily life, the entertainment space, we love it. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about entertainment tonight, maybe more than half the show, which is something I haven't done in a long time. But those are the things we enjoy, right? And I don't know if politics is downstream of culture anymore. It really seems like they both combined into this blob monster that's horrible, where politics became a blood sport, so it became entertainment and part of the culture. Social media latched onto that, and we saw politicians really starting with Obama and being refined by Trump in both his 2016 election run and more recently in 2024 by embracing the podcast influencer space that we've seen kind of emerging. And Trump himself, obviously being a great entertainer, being part of The Apprentice, being such a pop cultural figure over the decades, as well as being a businessman and mogul, and honestly a playboy in his own right, that we've seen this merging of everything, and it's become this horrendous singularity where, because of social media, the manipulations that we're seeing with data, AI now really making things so much worse, that now you don't know who to trust. And it just all reverts to, my best friend here in Puerto Rico, he's hardcore, he's super based. I'm not going to throw his name out there. Maybe one day he'll come on the show, because we always talk politics. I love him. But, we get into these, it's not really debates, because we agree on pretty much everything. But, it always gets to the point where, and he's been in Puerto Rico most of his life. He was born and raised here, but he's lived on the mainland for a while as well. He's got a similar background as I am in engineering. And he's always like, well, what's the solution, man? And I just tell him at this point, and this is where the Rolando of like a few years ago, before I, have become a little bit more worldly about things, where I would have been like, come on, man, like really? But my entire life has come full circle here. And I feel like I had plans, I had ideas, I was a schemer, to quote roughly The Dark Knight, where I don't see, I've kind of given what my prescription is. The problem is, and I think that Trump, for the most part, was trying to enact that prescription, but I think that we've been hollowed out from the inside for so long as the United States that I don't know. It's really difficult, right? Because when you're a believer in Christ, you can never have despair, right? Because at the end of the day, as long as you're a believer, as long as you repent and you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, doesn't really matter what happens. You're pretty confident what your destination is going to be at the end of the day. That doesn't solve the problems of the world, though. And I don't know if it was ever supposed to, but I think that's pretty much it. I think that unless we have a literal come to Jesus moment, which I thought we were after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and maybe it's going on, and we spend too much time on social media and Twitter, and we just see the infighting, which is definitely true to an extent. A lot of the normies don't care about this stuff, but most of it is happening regardless of whether they care. So it's a little bit of both, isn't it? Because so many conspiracies, so many cover-ups have been proven to be true over the last few years, especially after COVID, that it's difficult to live in an ignorance is bliss sort of manner. And once you've taken that red pill, you really can't go back. And how's it going, Axe? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see a few different faces here than usual. I'm glad to see you guys coming out for the rants. I appreciate it. The rants get a little bit tougher because I don't know what to believe anymore. I can go by history. I can go by what my gut instinct is. and I can see by what some of the logical things are. But when you see so much infighting, so much chaos going around, and so much of your instinct, which is we've especially, I think, millennials, Gen Z, that have their head on straight. Obviously, they haven't been devoured by the woke mind virus at this point. That we just don't trust. We don't trust anyone or anything, and sometimes it's to our own detriment, because at some point, you know, a lot of us voted for President Trump, especially in the last election. He got record numbers, and he got demographics that we'd never seen before. And I think, on the one hand, especially for younger people, younger than me. I mean, I'm not an old guy, but I'm 39 years old at this point. So even though physically I am still a spring chicken and in better shape than I probably have been my entire life, to be honest, I know that I've seen a few iterations of this, right? I remember enough about the 90s. I'm a student of history. I lived through September 11th and the war on terror, saw how that was mismanaged, have seen where we are, have seen how the left and our enemies have completely infiltrated all of media and used it to manipulate us. I see how the Alinskyan tactics, Saul Alinsky, and when I mentioned that, have permeated through the university system for decades. I see how the sexes have been turned on one another by rampant fourth wave feminism, and that, you know, we just live in an era where there are so many negative things going on, and it seems so hopeless. Yet at the same time, from a spiritual perspective, I have more hope than ever. And I'm not necessarily worried about myself, but when people ask for answers, I really don't have much other than to tell them, other than, all right, you're going to have to split this up in two different ways. And a lot of people don't like this answer anymore. And if you're not a person of faith, you'll probably just scoff at me and be like, hey, I'm not buying that. And I was like, that's totally fine. But that's not where I'm at. And honestly, if I wasn't there, I'd probably go insane at this point, because really, if you're expecting any sort of human intervention or any sort of hero to come and save us at the end of the day, you should know that looking throughout history, that's all BS. There is nobody that's going to come and save us in the mortal sense. There isn't. This is it. This is where we're at. A lot of it isn't our fault. A lot of it isn't President Donald Trump's fault. We are living through the culmination of decades of greed, mismanagement, evil, and a lack of a moral foundation in the West. And we've turned against everything that made the Western civilization, fantastic. And we've taken it to an extreme, right? We became hyper liberal. We stopped caring about God. We stopped caring about the family. We became greedy as hell. So I'm a capitalist like anybody else, but the fact of the matter is that we've gone in two extreme directions without morality, right? And so the left has gone full communist totalitarian, and a lot of elements of the right have gone full capitalism without any sort of moral morality. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't have pure capitalism without having a moral code, right? Because nobody cares. Companies will just do things without paying their employees. People will lie, cheat, and steal to get whatever they want. People will produce bad products and lie about it. And I mean, we see it. We see the hypocrisy, right? How many of these left-wing companies do we see where they act like they're woke or that they care about the people, but at the end of the day, it's all about the profits? Or they're willing to run companies into the ground, not caring about their employees, not caring about their shareholders, not caring about the damage that they do to society, and it's all for their own power and their own greed. And then on the other hand, you have these people that think they can create a utopian society with only secular ideals. So they basically try to strip, and this is what the left has done, right? Because ultimately humans need something to believe. This is a tale as old as time. We have to believe in a higher power. We're all basically children that run around not knowing how to do anything right. And if we put our own moral standards as individuals it's going to end up with everybody killing each other. That's really what it always comes down to. Because humans are not inherently, I don't believe in the blank slate. We're not born inherently good. We're the products of our upbringing, our society. Yes, there's a genetic component to a lot of things, but most people will fight to survive without any sort of moral code. And that's what we see in a lot of the third world, right? This is why we see the Middle East, we see India, we see all these countries in Central and South America that have no, if they don't have any sort of moral code or foundation, everybody lies, everybody cheats, they kill and they steal to take things. At least in the West, we developed a rules-based order, as the liberals like to call it. But, you know, we had a moral code, we had constitutions, we believed in higher power, and we based it on our Christian principles. And that morality, and it was a common morality, and whether you believed in it or not, everybody appreciated it. I mean, how many atheists do we see coming out nowadays where they regret essentially destroying the churches in Europe for their secular utopias? Our founders knew the difference, right? They did. Pretty much all of them were Christians, and that's how they set up the colonies. Back in the day, you literally had to admit, see, this is another thing that people don't talk about. You had to admit that you had a belief in God in order to go into office. So this separation of church and state, the way that we know it in the modern era, didn't work that way back then. It had to do more with a national religion or choosing one over the other, or having the government discriminate against that on a federal level. But a lot of the colonies, well, I think 11 of the colonies were Protestant and 2 of them were Catholic. And so they were all Christian, and they ran away from persecution in Europe. And we think that we can separate this and have a functioning society, and we really can't. And so at the end of the day, that is the answer. That's really the answer that I have to give. And the more that I think about, you know, trying to prescribe things, I can. But if we don't have leaders that have that moral standard, and that doesn't mean that you operate naively, because we are in a fallen world where there's evil out there. So you can't just sit around and be like, we're not going to do anything, because then we're just going to get persecuted and martyred. We can see that. Our enemies have no qualms about killing people. So whether they're the communists or the Islamists, that's what they do. We live in a might makes right world that operates on realpolitik, and that's the way that we have to do things. And I think that even for a while, the allure of no new wars and all this stuff that Trump had was fantastic, but it's the same way that libertarian economics works, right? Like, this is where libertarians are naive, and I've been kind of a conservatarian, and I like to believe in that sometimes. But again, without some sort of moral code, you're going to fall apart. Because look at, even within the Libertarian Party, you have people that don't care about ages for things. You have open borders libertarians and all this stuff. And let's be honest, if companies are immoral, they're just going to fleece everybody. So we can talk about the market, we can talk about all this stuff all we want, but let's say that we live in a world that has basically no government enforcement with anything, and we just have the mega corporations that we have today that can steal each other's patents and do all this stuff. It's going to be survival of the fittest at all times. And maybe that's a world that a lot of people might want to live in. But let's be honest, most people are too stupid to be entrepreneurs and anything that more than consumers. Plus, it would make a pretty stressful freaking life, because everybody will be fighting for survival constantly. And any way that somebody can steal somebody's patents, technology, or anything like that, it's going to be like that. And when you see the businesses only care about constant growth, constant growth, constant growth. I mean, let's take the example of something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and Epic Games and Fortnite. So you have a company that's making billions of dollars a year that has a user base of over 110 million people. And because they're not reaching the levels of growth that they've had for years, which has been completely unsustainable, then, how is that realistic? How is that absolutely realistic? And that's the problem. This is the pursuit that we have. And I think that when you see, and using the example of Trump Cerberus, the no new wars thing, I think it was a slogan. Let's be honest. I think this is where we have a problem with some of the Trump voters, right? It's that We have people that have dealt with politicians for years, and that even though many of us may have looked at Trump's first term and we're like, okay, he made mistakes there. Personally, I didn't think that Trump was legit until pretty much halfway through his first term. I thought he was a Democrat plant because he was a Democrat most of his life and he was from New York. So honestly, I didn't trust the guy. I just knew it's better than Hillary because I know what she is. She's an evil snake. But if you are a first-time voter, you grew up a Gen Zer, you grew up in the post 9/11 era or just before 9/11, so you don't really remember what that was like to see America attacked by Islamic terrorists and to see that kind of evil perpetrate the world, and then watch this go into 2 wars that were mismanaged and had repercussions that we didn't foresee. Because let's be honest, Iraq was a check against Iran, and if we had kept them in power, you know, maybe they would have annihilated each other. Then we wouldn't have to worry about Israel or Saudi Arabia or any of these other countries. Had we not worried about all the environmental bullshit and the EPA rules, and we just drilled all of our own energy resources and exploited the resources that we had we not given China favored nation status, Bush done that, had Richard Nixon not opened the doors to China. I mean, how many mistakes have we made? And a lot of it was caused by greed, right? Had we actually tried to help the Russians more after the fall of the Soviet Union, maybe Putin would never have been in power, and we would have had a mostly Christian European country that was essentially a fallen superpower, but still very powerful in their own right, been our biggest ally and maybe part of the EU right now, and none of these problems would be going on. So these are all the things that we're dealing with right now. And maybe it's an inevitability. I don't know. I don't know what times we live in right now. You know, I'm not one of these prophetical people. And it's difficult to know. Look, Christian sects have been debating whether modern Israel is the biblical Israel and everything like that. I don't know. I don't know if it is or it isn't. You know, Israel's obviously important. Jerusalem is going to be staying there at the end. So in that sense, that territory is obviously extremely important. But the Israeli government is separate from Jewish believers, etc. And I don't know. And everybody's got their own agenda, right? I mean, the Catholic Church has their agenda. We've got mega churches that have their own agendas here. We have people that claim they're Christian or Catholic and they do immoral things. And they believe in abortion and they're unrepentant sinners and they take advantage of everybody. So that's pretty much what we've got, right? It's everybody can be bad. Everybody lies, cheats, and steals at the end of the day. So you really do have to have your own discernment nowadays. And I think that is more important than ever. So it's really having faith, finding, you know, spiritual leaders that you can trust, and finding people that you can trust around you, not relying on any of the talking heads. You know, not me. Well, especially not me. I'm just some dude. I'm just some dude in Puerto Rico that's ranting about stuff and that talks about rights. But, you know, I guess I'm as good as anybody else. You know, how many of these think tanks or people with degrees have been liars or been wrong about things, or they've never done anything in their life and they don't know what they're talking about. So that's really what it is. You've got to have your own discernment. You've got to study everything yourself. But at the end of the day, if we really believe that there's nobody that we can trust at all, then I wouldn't even really waste my time complaining about it. I think that's where we are. Because if you have to kind of choose a stopping point, right? So this is where I give Trump a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because we gave the man 4 more years, so we're going to see it through. We're going to see it through to the end, whether we like it or not. Like, unless, you know, we get hit by a car or something along the way and we don't survive to see it, 2028. This is what we've got. So I think a lot of the people in the right-wing space, because, I mean, how many YouTubers have been complaining about numbers going down and things like that? Obviously, AI slop, the algorithm, all that stuff contributes to it. But I think that so much of, especially political Twitter and entertainment Twitter, is about, oh, thank you, Cerberus, is about complaining about things, right? That so much of it has become about the negativity in the world because we love to complain ultimately. And that's what gets clicks. It's rage bait, all that stuff. So if you're somebody that's built your livelihood off of this and you rely completely on social media, YouTube, Rumble, whatever, and you've enacted your craft. Now, obviously, everybody and the best in the industry maintain their authenticity. There's no doubt. And there's a lot of people that are out there that are authentic. I've worked and I know a lot of people that are completely genuine and authentic. And I've worked and met a lot of people that are full of crap. There's a little bit of both everywhere. Sometimes some are easier to tell than others. Some people you think are total assholes and they're actually the best people and they're the most genuine in the world. Some people are the nicest people in the world and they're the fakest people you'll ever meet. It's like the real world, right? It's like anybody. You got friends and family that are the same way. But there is an addiction to success, right? Or when you dump your day job and you decide to go into social media full time and you learn how it works and you start looking at the trends, the algorithm, a lot of people will chase the algorithm. And so many people, it was so easy on the right to gain success when Biden was in power and to be on the minority side of things. Because it's not that we're playing the victim on purpose, but you're in the battle. And when you're in the fight and you're fighting uphill, there's a lot of people rally to your cause. But when things are good, everybody's just like, peace out, man. We finally won. I'm out of here. And it feels like when Trump won in 2024, that's what happened. A lot of people pieced out. But this is why for years, if you've listened to me, one of my favorite quotes of all time is eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, which means we always have to pay attention. Now, in that same token, we can't just turn on, unless we know definitively that somebody has turned on us, which I don't think that President Trump has. I think President Trump is juggling a bunch of different things. I think it's like it's the kind of the description that I've used before. I say this to my old man all the time. And it's Trump got the folder. This is like a figurative folder. It's not literal. But basically, he got the folder, he opened it up. I'm not talking about the Epstein files or anything like that. I mean, that's all part of this. But he got the folder, and basically the folder said in huge red letters, the United States is cooked. We're done. We're pretty much done. We're on life support. We've been pillaged by our enemies within the government, within the country and outside of the country. We've allowed millions of illegals to come in here, get on our welfare system. The military-industrial complex has grown out of control. And that's it. And the American taxpayer is being fleeced at every level. And citizens are being treated as second-class citizens and evil. So, and this took 80 years in the post-World War II period to occur. Because after World War II, obviously, we were the top dogs. Europe was destroyed. We basically assumed the role that Great Britain and France had as imperial powers. And we took up that mantle. Whether we wanted it or not, that's where we ended up. And we sure as hell took advantage of it. And because we did not have righteous and just leaders in either our government or in our industries, they eventually just fell on full greed. And then as the intelligence agencies gained power through having more and more information and control over information, they were able to blackmail other world leaders, politicians, whoever. And they're probably running a lot of the show at this point. And then we created a society where we destroyed the nuclear family. We eliminated religion. We allowed communists to take over the education system. And, we completely annihilated the foundations that individuals had, the true safety net, which was the family in this country. And everything became about, I need to be jealous of my neighbor and he's got a new car, so I got to buy a new car. I got to make more money. I got to buy the newest TV. I have to have the best stuff. And then our politicians are corrupt. They're cheating. They're stealing. They're doing all this stuff. So I'm going to do the same thing. Secularism became our religion. And the left especially pushed that. Basically, the left, when you look at it, they espouse a lot of the things that supposedly New Testament Christianity would espouse, but they remove all consequence. So there's no sin, there's no redemption, or there's no repentance, and then there's no redemption, right? So all the pillars of Christianity, they removed. All the most important things. And of course, Jesus himself. And they're just like, just be nice to people, be charitable, do all this stuff. And oh, by the way, you don't have to do it yourself. The government will do it. So just pay us more taxes and we'll give people welfare. We'll do all this stuff. And you have to do that because that makes you a good person. It's like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. We are supposed to help our fellow man because it is the right thing to do. But that is a decision that we make as an individual. And you give to your church and they're supposed to distribute that. That's the way it's supposed to be. But now we blew all of that up because we're all too lazy and we're all too freaking greedy. And we started electing people that were lazy, greedy, and stupid. And that's where we're at. And that's really where we're at. And we have no one to blame but ourselves. And yes, we can go back to the previous generations and do all that. Yes, a lot of us were born and this was already moving in a certain trajectory and we had no control over it. And obviously we were raised in a society where people were completely unaware of many of these things until a few years from now. So we can blame some of the boomers, we can blame the hippies, we can blame all these people all we want. Yes, there is a level of responsibility for that. At the same time, a lot of those people did well. They saved money, they invested. My parents taught me the right way to live in that regard, not to live beyond your means, to always save money, be charitable, all that stuff. Many people's parents, I know, especially if you are of this political persuasion and you were most of your life, you probably came from good and decent families that taught you to do the same thing. So your families did the right thing. You've done the right thing according to everybody else, but we got screwed because ultimately our leaders lied. And some of it was we trusted these people, right? Because we live in a republic. So we have to elect these people in order to do things on our behalf. So these are the things that, we need to look and go back to. But again, it is possible that it's too late. Or again, the things that we have to do in order to right the ship are going to be painful. And the ship has already have sunk. So that means a lot of people have already drowned. That's it. So at this point, it's like being on a ship with watertight doors, right? You can choose to not close the watertight doors because some people are going to get caught in those compartments and they're going to drown, or the entire ship is going to sink. There's no good option here. There are going to be sacrifices. Bad things are going to happen. Good people are going to suffer, and it's going to be very unfair. And ultimately, it's not our fault, many of us. It isn't. But that's just the way it is. That's the way that the world has always been. And I think that that's what we need to accept. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. And that's where we're at. This is our responsibility now. Whether we wanted this mantle or not, you could just choose to not do anything or participate in anything and just go off into the mountain. That's fine. At the end of the day, you're still going to get screwed. They're still going to find you, and they're still going to make you bend the knee, or it's going to be bend the knee, or you're going to get the sword, and that's it. So whether you like it or not. So not participating in this is only going to work for so long before you can't. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So I think it is up to people of faith. You know, I don't know anywhere in Christianity that says you don't participate in politics or do anything like that. I think that's another thing that's happened. I think a lot of our churches have become weak. And I'm not going to go after one denomination or the other, because there's good and bad examples of Protestant, Catholic, and Orthodox churches. If you've got a weak pastor, a weak priest that spews a bunch of woke stuff and that doesn't teach you the Bible, you're going to fail. Like, that's just the way it is. You're not being educated correctly. You're not being fed and nurtured the way that you need to as a Christian of any denomination. So the church has failed in a lot of ways. We've failed because we haven't wanted to support good churches, because so many of us are like, man, I don't want to go to a church where the pastor is going to tell me like, hey, dude, you're an unrepentant sinner. It's not going to work out for you. Hey, if you're gay, it's not going to work out for you. Hey, abortion is bad. It's murder. I don't know what to tell you. Adultery is not good. Now, the great thing is that we believe in grace, right? So if you repent, God is merciful. He has infinite grace. He's not like us. You're good. As long as you're sincere about it, you're fine. But too many churches are afraid to even go down that path, because they become areas of motivational speaking, and also because of their 501c3 status, because honestly, most of us don't support our churches. We don't. I mean, how many people tithe 10%? Even I have a difficulty tithing as much as I want to. I do. That's something that I'm working on all the time, and I'm trying to get to the point where I can do that. But ultimately, we have to support our churches, because this tax exempt status, I think, holds a lot of churches back, because there are a lot of pastors. Now, I'm lucky that I found a really base church, I want to call it, but I don't hold anything against, Catholic believers. I think that the Pope is weak in a lot of respects, and the popes have been very weak in many ways, but you can find really good churches with very good priests in Catholic or Orthodox places. I don't know any off the top of my head, but is it giving you the circle of death? It should be good. I saw it go away there for a second. So, but you've got to find a good church that's not afraid to talk about these things, not afraid to turn people away, because we have lived in, and I'm going to call this, and this is no slight against the women in the chat, because I know there are a few of you out there, they become feminized. That's really what it is. It's a Pottery Barn feel-good mentality that is straying people the wrong way. Because if you just tell people what they want to hear, you are not going to save them at all. In fact, you're doing more damage by telling people what they want to hear than by telling them the truth. And that's the way it is. And I think that's where we've gotten too afraid, and that's where we become feminized. We need more of that masculine viewpoint where, yes, you want empathy. You don't want to just go in and beat the crap out of everybody, and we're just going to go in, we're going to blow everything up. I don't care who you are. I've got no sympathy with you. No. We give people that want and are trying hard a helping hand. But if people don't want to be saved, look, even Jesus, there are people that are like, look, Jesus, I like what you're saying, but I don't want to do the work. Jesus didn't waste any time on them. He didn't. There are really no times where Jesus turned back. And once somebody told him, like, look, I'm not going to follow you. Peace out. When he was around, he was like, okay. Now, they could have come back, and Jesus would have taken them back easily, but he wasn't going to do it, because ultimately, you've got your own free will. You've got to come around yourself. And that's, that's the way it is. So you've got to find a good place. You can't let singular experiences at churches or hypocrites sway you either. So I know, I'm sorry, this has turned into like a more preachy message, but this has been on my mind for a long time. And really, the more that I think about things, the more that I can give prescriptions. Like if you want a prescription of what I think should go down here, I think in my first comeback rant where I explained what I felt like the Trump doctrine was, that really explains it, right? So what do we have to do? This is how you turn this around. So absolutely, you have to be willing to stand up and fight, especially against evil. And to be ready to be persecuted too, right? How many Christians have been martyred throughout history because, they were given the option. Let's take in when the Islamic scourge of the Ottoman Empire was spreading across Europe. How many instances we have where, they came to Christians and they're like, convert to the sword. And Christians are like, nah, fam, I'm not doing that. And that's it. Boom, you were beheaded. The early church, the Romans persecuted thousands. It's happened throughout history. That's just the way it is. Maybe I'd like that not to be the way that things end, but at the end of the day, we don't have control over this world. The devil has his due, and human nature is undefeated until the trumpet sound and the return of the second coming occurs, which we don't know when that's going to be. So we might be in for a long world of hurt for a while. It could happen in a couple of years. Who knows? I don't know. And anybody that tells you they know is talking BS, because nobody does. But if you want a secular prescription, so I've given the big one. You got to come to Jesus, literally, not figuratively. You got to have your faith. We've got to have a unified moral code, and that's the first step. And ultimately, that's going to be the long-term step, because we can do all these other things, but if we fall back into this cycle of greed, hatred, and evil that we've been in, it won't matter. We can fix this for a little bit, and then we'll just revert to it again. It's the same as, I believe Benjamin Franklin said that, the legend goes after, the ratification of the Constitution. What type of country have you given us? A republic, if you can keep it. Because look at our Constitution. Look at all the freedoms that we have. And look at our first two amendments, which are the most powerful and important of all, which is freedom of speech, right to keep and bear arms. You can say whatever you want, and you can own whatever guns you want. Obviously, we've seen those two limited in many ways, but essentially that's what they gave us. And think to yourself, if you're an immoral person, that's basically giving you the license to lie and quell dissent, right? Obviously, in the moral sense, the way the founders had it is you can petition your government, stand up against them, tell the truth if they're lying, and then resist against tyranny if they're trying to take away your rights. That was really what the intention of those two amendments was, more than anything else. It really is our check from a government becoming tyrannical. But if you're an immoral people, it just basically means that, you'll lie, say whatever you want to get on top, and then you'll just, take out anybody that you don't like. That's pretty much what it's opening the door. And if you're an immature, selfish, and evil society, you're not going to be able to handle that responsibility. That's just the way it is. You'll devour yourselves from inside. And if you don't use those justifiably either, the same thing will happen. So we've got to understand where the founders were coming from and what the actual foundation is when it comes to all of these things, or else we're just going to misinterpret it, or we're going to allow the left to do their semantic gymnastics where they change the meaning of words. They tell you, they can't define what a man or a woman is. Up is down is up, left is right, and everything is in between. And because you have no moral code or standard, you don't answer to any God except for your own inner id. It's just utter chaos, right? So we live in a non-serious, very selfish society. And that's why we've gotten where we are. So again, throwing out the faith aspect of all of this and having a spiritual moral code. How do you fix this? First of all, you need time. I think the only way that the United States can be fixed is we pretty much need about 10 or 12 years to really undo the damage that we've been facing. Trump only had 4, so he's not going to be able to do it. Doge was the right thing, but we see how corrupt the courts are. That's another problem that we have, that the courts are not functioning. They're functioning on an extra constitutional basis, and we don't have any politicians that have the balls to remove judges. Let's times of bad. I'm trying to get the exact wording here. So in the Constitution itself, in Article 3, Section 1, it says the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive their services, a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office, blah, blah, blah. That's a little bit ambiguous. At the same time, would violating the Constitution be bad behavior? Who determines that? I think this is one area. I think that this is actually probably the most flawed aspect of the Constitution, because we do have checks and balances, but when you think about the courts simultaneously have the weakest position of all 3 branches of government, and somehow they have the strongest position of all 3 branches of government. Because let's think about it. The president is the commander in chief. He enforces the laws. He controls the military. Congress controls the purse and finances. The courts control nothing. The courts, literally the only purpose of the courts are to determine if things are constitutional or unconstitutional. That's it. But now they've become de facto, their rulings become law. And this is where we went off the rails, because I think the way that the Supreme Court and all these courts operate, it was never the intention of how it was. And this is one area where I do critique the Constitution, because this is so ambiguous that I don't know what this means. To me, this means that if you've got rogue judges that are doing things that are blatantly unconstitutional, like allowing gun control laws and things like that to go past, they should be able to be kicked out by an executive. The problem is that in today's political environment, what would happen? Basically, anytime you get a president of the opposite party, which there shouldn't even be partisan judges, but we know that's all bullshit, right? They're humans anyway. There we go. That's the first curse of the stream. I've been trying to eliminate cursing as much as I can, but it is what it is. We know that that's total BS. How do you have any control over this? Because, let's say that President Trump, let's say that the Supreme Court makes a ruling that we would basically agree like that's BS, or that's going to undermine the U.S. Clearly unconstitutional, but the Supreme Court said it, so we're hosed. If President Trump were just to say, F this, I'm not listening to it, what could the Supreme Court possibly do? The Supreme Court has no police force. They have no military force. They have no way to enforce anything. So there's really nothing to stop Congress or the president from disobeying the courts. There isn't. At the same time, and by that same token, why do we allow judges that are acting illegally, and we know that they're acting illegally, to have this power. It's because nobody has the balls to do anything about it. That's really where we're at. And I don't really have an answer to that. So that's one thing that's a huge stumbling block in a lot of things that we need to do. Because birthright citizenship, we know that's a BS loophole. The 14th Amendment was never intended to be the way that it was used with anchor babies and all this stuff. It had to do with slaves that were freed after the Civil War. That was it. And instead, we've got all these illegals here that have children. They get to stay. They're not citizens. They feed off of the system. We've got Chinese nationals coming in here, having babies. Now they get to stay. They get to spy in the United States. They can establish companies here. They steal our patents. They take it back to China. They embed themselves, sabotage our universities and our corporations, and we can't do anything about that. That's complete and utter horse crap, and there is no way that that is how that amendment, not the founders, because the 14th Amendment wasn't around back then, but we know that that's crap. There is no way that it was the intention of the 14th Amendment. But you know, if it goes to the Supreme Court, they're going to say no. That's exactly what it means. BS. Absolutely freaking BS. And we know that that undermines our country and that destroys us and allows our enemies to beat us. And what can we do? We can't do anything about it. We can pass an amendment that repeals the 14th Amendment, and maybe that's probably what we need to do. But again, Congress is never going to have the cohesion to do that. There is too much vested interest with special interests in Congress on both sides of the aisle to ever pass amendments that will correct a bunch of this stuff. Term limits in Congress, balanced budget, repeal the 14th Amendment, a Second Amendment absolution clause, where basically we say the Second Amendment means exactly what it means. All gun control is unconstitutional. Done. We're never going to do that. Now, we can do a convention of states, but even a lot of conservatives are way too afraid of a convention of states because they're like, what if the Democrats get enough votes in order to write an amendment that we don't like? Then you guys did a horrible job because you didn't have the wherewithal to, you didn't have the right message to get the American people to believe in this crap. We control most of the state houses in this country if you're a conservative. So getting a convention of states is something that we ought to do. And that's going to be the only way that we deal with this. And see, the more excuses that they come up with, the more that they spiral themselves to the inevitable conclusion that the Second Amendment is going to be the only solution. And that's probably not going to work out the way that we want it to either. I would argue that that's especially not going to work out the way that we want it to. That will probably lead to a tyranny at really. It's going to lead to chaos. We're going to get balkanized and eventually we'll fall apart. So anyway, if we can get over these barriers and see, I'm not trying to black pill people, but what I'm trying to say is we have very few options. And I think the last train that we've got in town is the Trump train right now. That's it. That's all we got. So until it becomes blatantly obvious that President Trump has completely betrayed us and he's anti-American, this is where we're at. We've got no other recourse because we already know where we're at. We know what the score is at this point, and we know that at least part of the Republican Party is redeemable and good. There is no part of the Democrat Party that's redeemable or good. None. They are, to use Hillary Clinton's terminology, they are the basket of deplorables. They really are. And we've seen that the ones that weren't moderated jump ship. Now, the biggest problem that we're going to have is I think that a lot of the coalition that Trump established, they're not going to go back to the Democrat Party. They're just not going to vote at all. And that's going to be the biggest barrier that we have. And we know that whoever's left in the Democrat Party, they're the true fanatics. And it doesn't matter what the Democrats do, really. These are people that are crazy. When we have middle-aged white women willing to die for people who break the law and that die for their toxic empathy, It's like a left-wing jihad. That's what we're dealing with over there. It's a fanaticism and a zeal that we as, I don't even see that in a lot of believers. I don't see that kind of zeal and faith. And it's for non-secular, evil, demonic causes that the left perpetuates. That's the crazy part. We don't have that type of vehemence. And I'm not saying that we want to go out there and go crazy, because that's not how we do things. But I just don't see that equivalent energy. And without at least the energy to say, like, look, we can sit here all day and we can be like, look, what makes us better than the Democrats is that we don't march like lemmings. That's absolutely true. But sometimes we're our own worst enemy. And I struggle with this all the time, because the old man can tell you I'm the ultimate devil's advocate. I come on the rant and I'm a lot more level-headed than I am when I go on rants with him. I'm basically burn it all down, scorched earth. I don't care. Both parties are terrible. But then when I think about, that's me venting. When I think about it, I'm like, that's not realistic either. And I also know there aren't enough of us out there that are willing to do what it takes to do that. I'm an unmarried man without kids. I don't really have that much to lose. My parents are older. They've done their time. They've done the right thing. They raised us. So I got nothing to lose. I got no reputation to lose, nothing like that. I can be politically vocal. People can come after me and it doesn't matter. I've got nobody that I need to protect, really, except the cats. And the cats can probably defend themselves better than I can defend them with those claws. But I can see people that have families, that have kids that rely on them. It comes down to the patriot, right? And where Mel Gibson's character at first was basically like, I don't want to be involved with this. I got kids. I got a family. I can't do this. I can't make the sacrifice. And ultimately, that's also what we on the right have. Now, a lot of people know, hey, I got to do what it takes to save my family. I got to do it. And so we got to stand up to this. We can't be quiet. We saw people that stood up to the jab during the COVID era and they lost their jobs, and that's incredible. I got into battles in my previous relationship about that. I was ready to lose my job over that, and I was committed to it. But it caused a world of pain and suffering in my household at the time to take that stand. And there are a lot of people that are not willing to take that stand at all. They're not. And most of them are on our side because, let's be honest, it's people who are conservative and responsible, who have more skin in the game, but they also have a lot more to lose. So we've got to be able to, we got to be willing to make some sacrifices. And there's going to be and the sacrifices will be that prices are going to go up. We're going to lose a lot of cheap things that we love because they're all made in China. And I'm not even talking about oil prices. I'm just talking about manufactured goods, because let's take the war in Iran out of here. I think that that's a big play to try to destroy the globalists. And more each day you see that with even Trump's strategy of the Europeans need to help set up the defense of the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to pump more and more oil and natural gas, but now we have leverage over the European Union because one of the largest LNG plants in, I believe it was in the UAE or was it Qatar, was damaged, and it's going to take years to fix. Now that puts us as the top natural gas producer in the world, and we can give leverage to Europe. We're building more ships. We're going to refuse to get into certain treaties when it comes to shipbuilding. You can see the grand strategy here at play, but there's going to be a lot of pain involved in that, because we're talking about decoupling the United States from this globalist regime. That's what we're doing. We're trying to decouple ourselves, because for too long we've been far too reliant on countries and people that hate us, and people within our own country who are too damn greedy and unpatriotic to do the right thing. And so in order to rip that apart, it's going to cause chaos. It's absolutely going to cause chaos. And I think this is also why you see Donald Trump flip-flop on a lot of things. This is why he said, oh yeah, we're going to make a deal with the Iranians. We're not going to bomb them for 5 days. He says that at the beginning of the week. clearly before the markets open, and 5 days is after the markets close. We can call that manipulation all you want. I think it's BS that the president even has that kind of ability and that the markets react to that, knowing that that's probably just a political play. You know, I'm intelligent enough. I don't think that that's wrong for Trump to do that, but I also know what's going on there. I'm like, yeah, I get what he's doing. But the markets immediately react to it. And these are people that supposedly are a lot smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff, or at least they have a lot more money than I do. So maybe they're not smarter. They just got lucky, or they've just got information that I don't. I don't know. So, or maybe they're just a lot more cutthroat, bloodthirsty, and immoral than I am, and they just do things I'm unwilling to do. And most of us would be unwilling to do. I'm not sure. But you can see the play there. And now if we want to separate this, we can't just go isolationist because we're still too reliant on other countries and their resources. And if we just cut everything off, well, we've got all this oil and natural gas here. We've got rare earth metals. We can do all that. That's great. We just saw that LNG plant get taken out. They said it's going to be like 5 years to repair it and fix it and get it back to capacity. So what would happen if we decoupled from the entire world? We don't produce most of our medicines. We don't produce most of our own technology and computer chips. We produce almost all the energy we need, but still not quite. And we buy a lot of these things because of essentially indentured servitude wages that third world countries pay to their workers. So if we want to bring back everything to America, and if Americans want the standard of living that we feel that we so deserve, rightly or wrongly, something's got to give. We've got to be able to work those factory jobs that are grueling. We've got to be willing to take less wages or less benefits if we want things to be cheap. We're not going to accept those things. So things are going to be expensive or they're going to be fully automated. So all those factory jobs that everyone was claiming to come back, those aren't coming back. They're not. Our companies are going to choose to go with robots. Either it's going to be third world slave labor or the robots are going to build everything. So that stuff is done. So again, this is where the sacrifices are going to be made. So who's willing to sacrifice this? Who's willing to do it? People don't like the tariffs. Oh, it's anti-capitalistic. We know the libertarians especially hate the tariffs. That's not how we're... How can you possibly be capitalistic in that sense, total free market, when we care about American workers, and we as American workers, we want health care, we want to get paid a lot. How can I compare against the Chinese worker that gets nothing and gets paid like $2 an hour? I can't. So the libertarians are going to be like, well, compete. I can't compete. Make a better product. I can make a slightly better product, but is it going to be double the price better? Probably not. So that's what you've got to do. People need to do, and see, Cerberus, see, that's a good thing because that's the problem. The problem is we've also become spoiled. Everybody looks at, everybody in this country, and I'm not saying everybody, too many people in this country disrespect the trades, disrespect physical labor and blue collar jobs that are what made this country the way that it is. I went to a trade vocational school for high school. And that's honestly, that is the reason why I have the job that I have today, more so than the degree in engineering that I have. My degree in engineering is about to become useless because of AI. It is. I don't care what anybody says. AI is really bad at doing a lot of things, but it's really good at doing math. And it's going to keep getting even better at doing math. And that's what engineering is. I can run simulations all day. I can build apps, and I don't even need to know how to code. Is it going to be the best stuff? No, it's not. But do you really need 1,000 code monkeys in that situation? The AI can write most of the code. You just hire 100 guys to look over the code and make sure it's fine. You have senior programmers. But do you need any of these entry-level jobs that are white collar? Do you need secretarial, managerial, all these other jobs? No, they're going to get decimated. They're going to get decimated. They are. And we're going to be going back to the trades and all of those physical labor jobs. But even a lot of those jobs, as much as I encourage people, there's going to be a limit. Not everybody can be an electrician. Not everybody's going to work in construction or be a contractor or going to all that. It'll be much more like the Renaissance, where you'll have people that are exceptional, that can work in some of the arts, because people are going to want handcrafted things. There will always be people that will say, I don't want meat grown in a lab. I don't want art that's AI slop. And I don't want furniture that's not built by an actual craftsman. So there will be a niche for that. But in order for you to succeed in those things, especially anything that's like a skilled labor type of job that requires a sort of creativity and craftsmanship, not everyone can do that, first of all. And even if a lot of people could, there's going to be a limit in those industries. You're going to hit a ceiling, and not everybody's going to be able to do that. So what are we going to do? That's a big question. I don't know what we're going to do. The economy is going to rebalance. So, but if you're already in it, you'll probably be fine. You will. We're going to need people that work the trades. And the trade jobs are going to be more important than anything else, because you're still going to need a discernment, right? An AI doesn't have a moral sense of code. Maybe you can teach it some sort of ethics and things like that, and it'll run on rules. But we know ultimately it's going to be flawed. It's not going to have a gut instinct or anything like that. And so you're going to need a human in the loop. But how many humans are you going to need in the loop? I don't know. A lot fewer than you have now. You're going to be able to eliminate a lot of bureaucracy, form writing. I think there's going to be a huge wake-up call when it comes to women in the workforce. Because let's be honest, most blue-collar jobs, a lot of blue-collar jobs are mostly physical labor and male-oriented jobs. Most jobs that women get into are white-collar, and I think almost all those jobs are going to be decimated. So I think you're going to see a strange paradigm and shift in the sexual dynamics again as this all occurs, because I think anyone in like tech or honestly any sort of job that's not physical labor is going to get cooked. So that's going to disproportionately affect women more than men. That's just a fact. I don't think anybody can dispute that. It's not even sexist to say that. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of things that people just don't understand and aren't anticipating at all whatsoever. And the world that we've created is not going to be able to handle that. We're going to have to go back to a more traditional society, I guess you would say. I don't know how that's going to look in the modern era, but again, there's going to be a lot of pain and sacrifice involved in all of this. The content creator space is all BS and weird anyway. This is like a weird space, let's be honest. Nobody ever anticipated how social media was going to be. But again, that'll be like the other creative jobs, right? AI slop is going to start eliminating a lot of content. But the best creators that are authentic, that don't rely on AI to do things, they'll do well. But it's like anything else. You'll have like the top 10% or 1% that make the majority of the profits when it comes to this kind of stuff. And everybody else is going to get hosed for the most part. So we've got to decouple. It's going to require sacrifice. We've got to deal with what AI is going to do. That's going to be something that we can't anticipate. I do think there's going to be a bubble. Some of it is overblown, but there are obvious areas where AI is far superior, or at least supplements the human aspect so much that you'll need less people to do the same amount of work. So, look, Chrysanth. Hey, Chrysanth, you can throw it out there, and you won't get the hate that I do as a chauvinist. He's a red-pilled. he's a red-pilled, bitter man, and he's just angry and going after the women. Far from it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm definitely red-pilled, but I don't ascribe to many of that stuff, man. If I did a red pill podcast one day, that would blow people's minds. I'm not going there though. I'm not going there. I've become a lot more cynical when it comes to intersexual dynamics, but you know, you got to balance being a Christian man and not full. Plus, a lot of the red pill stuff is bullshit. A lot of the manosphere is falling apart, and it's just become a grift in itself too, and it's just ridiculous. So there's good things there, but a lot of it's crazy. But yeah, Chris Hansen says, to be fair, most women's jobs are just daycare and meetings designed to make them look busy. I mean, how many of those content social media creators got you know, just show their jobs at like big tech? And I was like, these people are making like $150,000, $200,000 a year. And it's literally a TikTok video of, I went and got a latte. They had free food at lunch. Look how awesome the food court is. We did a Zoom meeting for like 2 hours, and then I chilled the rest of the day, and then I went home, and then I went to the gym. Ta-da, amazing. That was great. Awesome. I didn't do shit all day, and I get paid more than this dude that's busting his ass over here, making sure that the city is literally running and that the sewage and the power plant doesn't fall apart. You know? Or a doctor that's like trying to save somebody's life. How many of these unnecessary jobs do we have out there? It's just busy work. So, you know, a lot of those jobs are especially are going to go away. There's so many BS jobs in tech, and some of it was just trying to fill quotas, just trying to, I don't even know. I really don't even know what they were for at this point. Marketing jobs, things like that. A lot of that's going to get wiped out. Photography is cooked. Oh man. One of my favorite channels, F Stoppers. This guy is great. He's been giving photography advice for years. He actually lives out in, I think he lives in the other side of Puerto Rico, or maybe he's not that far from here. I don't know. Cool guy. And even he's like, dude, I'm cooked as a photographer. I'm totally cooked, man. He's like, look at this realtor. He took horrible photos with like the exposure was totally jacked up, threw it into an AI program, and it fixed everything. And it's the legit image. It didn't doctor it or anything like that. It just fixed all the settings as if the photo had been taken perfectly. Now, a lot of that is because modern cameras are so good, and if you upload a raw file, all that data is there. So if you know how to recover it, you can do it using Photoshop and things like that. But that takes a lot of work. AI can fix that right away, man. Look at the thumbnails for YouTube. Some of them are slop, but some of them come out really good. And a lot of it is, hey, you would have paid somebody to Photoshop it anyway. And honestly, half the people that use Photoshop are total crap at it. So the AI is going to do just as good or a better job, especially if you're really good at prompting it. So yeah, some of it is slop, but in the hands of somebody that's actually halfway proficient or can at least articulate what they're looking for. And that's really the key with AI being a good tool. If you are somebody that is a natural manager, a natural leader, and somebody who can articulate your ideas and implement it. So this is where being a good manager, not like a bureaucrat, but actually a good leader, somebody who can explain to people that many times are novices or idiots. Let's be honest. It's a little bit of both. And you can really articulate the vision. You can work with an AI and you can manage it. And it's like having employees that just don't know that much. So this is a lot of what we're seeing. So yeah, we need to be prepared for all of these things. We really do. We have to be prepared for the changes that are happening. And if we do want the United States to be an independent country again, we have to realize what the repercussions are. And a lot of them are what President Trump is attempting to do in a very short amount of time. And I think part of it is desperation, because we know what we have to do is extreme. It's extreme. This is literal amputation from the globalist system. We're cutting off our arms and our legs, and we're trying to regrow them back, which is physically impossible, but we're trying to find a way to do that. It's a country, not a person, so we can recover from it, unlike you or I. But I guess we could build some sort of cybernetic and go, cyberpunk over here. Or I guess we can clone new appendages and grow them in a vat with our own DNA. So we're trying to figure that out, right? We have cancer that's spread everywhere. We have to remove the cancer, but it's already spread to like 90% of our body, and there's very little chance of survival here. So every solution that we have is going to be bad. It's going to be bad, but I can tell you what's going to be a lot worse. What's going to be a lot worse is if we don't try. And this is why I get so angry at the Republicans in Congress with the SAVE Act, not wanting to pass the filibuster, because they're all like, if we do this, we know what the Democrats are going to, we already know what the Democrats are going to do. We know what the Democrats are going to do. The Democrats have told us what they're going to do. I mean, we've got Pritzker over here. Let's see, can I do a screen share over here? Oh, look at that. I got 2 rants. I got like a full screen rant and the other one. This one's supposed to be the screen share. So let's minimize this. Now we'll put the screen share over here. All right. So we got Pritzker over here basically saying,
what does a Project 2029 agenda look like for you?
I don't think you can speak of it in shorthand, but I'll just say a couple
He wants
of
members of
things
the
that I
current
think
Trump
are
administration,
absolutely
along with
necessary.
federal agents, to be
One
criminally and
is we've
civilly
got to
prosecuted.
restore the rule of law, and that means holding
We had
people
Susan
accountable
Rice,
who've broken the law. I'm talking about
who worked in the
this
Obama
administration, when we get a new
who's
one,
now on the board of
people in
directors
this
for
administration
Netflix,
who've broken the law,
saying along the
and
same
federal
thing. They
agents
want to
who've broken the law
persecute
need to be held
and
accountable.
arrest
And that
any
means
conservative
criminally prosecuted.
that had anything
Criminally
to
prosecuted,
do
civilly
with President
prosecuted,
Trump
whatever it
and
is
what
that
he
we can
pushed.
do.
They want
Right?
companies
It may be
punished
that you can't
for what they
criminally
did.
prosecute
Did
somebody,
we do
but
anything
you
like
can
that?
go
No.
after them civilly.
We could have,
What does
because
a
we know that a lot of
Project
these people
2029
committed illegal
agenda
acts for
look like
sure. And we just don't have the balls to
you?
go after them
I
because
don't
we're
think
like,
you
well,
can
if we
speak
do it,
of
they're
it
going to go after us.
in
No, no,
shorthand, but
no.
I'll
They're
just say
going
a
to
couple
go
of
after
things
us
that I think
no
are
matter
absolutely necessary.
what we
one is we've got to
do.
restore
That
the
is the
rule of
problem.
law,
No
and that
matter
means
what
holding
we
people
do,
accountable
the other
who've
side is
broken
going
the
to come
law.
after
I'm
us, and
talking
they will
about
do
in this
so
administration, when we get a
relentlessly.
new one,
They
the
will
people
do
in
so
this administration
relentlessly.
who've broken the
And
law
that's why we have
and
to get rid of the
federal
filibuster. We
agents
have to
who've
do all
broken
this
the
stuff
law
because
need to be held
ultimately
accountable.
And that
we're
means
cooked.
criminally prosecuted.
That's where I
Criminally
think we are.
prosecuted, civilly
We are
prosecuted,
done.
whatever it is
We
that we can
cannot
do,
allow.
right? It may be that you
We
can't
cannot
criminally
allow the
prosecute
Democrats
somebody.
to gain control again. We cannot do it. We cannot allow it. We cannot allow them to regain power at all. We can't do it. And this is why I get so angry simultaneously at the podcaster class that we're seeing and the GOP in Congress, because they're both undermining everything that we're dealing with right now. The Republicans, because many of them are part of the uniparty and they don't care, and because they get more freaking money when they're in the minority. Let's be honest, that's really what it's all about here, right? Whether it's the podcasters or the members of the GOP in Congress that are too cowardly to do the right thing, it comes down to money. That's really what it is. Right-wing podcasters know that when we're in the minority, because we've got grievances, we're complaining all the time. This is why a lot of them have turned on Trump now, because they know that being on the opposite side, being on the opposition side, that gets more clicks because people want to see hate, they want to see anger, they want to see discontent. And they know that there is no more powerful emotion in this world than anger. Anger drives people to do everything, from evil to throwing their money. Uncontrolled anger. There is righteous anger. It is good to be angry. It is good to go after injustices in this world. But just to have anger to be angry, and for people to use anger to prey on us, that is evil, that is wrong, and that's what's going on here. Because We saw that we started becoming, this is what happened in the content creator space. When we won, you guys stopped watching videos. Everybody, we all did. We're all like, man, like if Kathleen Kennedy's gone, let's take that. If the video game industry isn't woke anymore, then that's it. There's nothing to complain about. But the fact of the matter is, people like to watch people complaining about things. I don't know what it is. That's the psychology of it. Maybe it's because we're messed up in the head and we live in a fallen world, and that's it. We just love the conflict over anything else. So when we see something positive, a lot of times we underappreciate it. But when there's some injustice out there that we can complain about, boy, do we get pissed off, and we got to fight it to the death. That's the way that it is. But when everything's hunky-dory, I'm chilling out, man. I'm going to go touch grass. I'm not going to watch these videos anymore. And that is something that has frustrated me so much in every space. It really is, because sometimes I don't watch a lot of the content that I even used to be a part of. Because let's be honest, we've won a lot of the battles, especially in the cultural space. We have won many of the battles. I was going to spend a lot of time talking about Project Hail Mary and how awesome of a movie it is. It's in my top 5. It was one of my favorite books that I ever read and listened to. The old man and I watched it again. We watched it twice on opening weekend. But, you know, so much, like, that's a victory, right? That's a huge win. And I'm glad to see that it seems like it's reached universal acclaim. It seems like everybody that's watched the movie loves it. It seems like everybody, you know, from critical drinker to nerdrotic, everybody loves the movie. You know, even normies love it. Content creators love it. Everybody seems to like it. That's awesome. It's a return to form for Hollywood. It's the type of movie that we would have seen in the 1980s. To me, Project Hail Mary is going to be a classic. It's like a Back to the Future, which is, it doesn't mean that it's the best movie ever made, but it's close to being a perfect film. And some people may think I'm being hyperbolic, but that's how much I loved it. And what do I mean by a perfect film? The pacing is great. It respects the audience. So it doesn't get as scientific in the weeds as the novel does, but it does enough, especially when you watch it again. There's a lot of showing and not telling. And if you keep up with things, like my dad had a few different questions of like, how did this happen here? And I explained it to him because in the book, obviously there's an internal monologue. There's a little bit more exposition when it comes to certain technical things happening. But when we watched it on the second time, we saw more of the context clues of, oh, that's how they were able to get, past this certain situation right here. We can see that this is how this was resolved. It isn't because the characters told us. It's because if you're paying attention, you can see what the solution was. You're like, oh, that's how we got past this. Got it. I understand now. It's emotional. It's got action. It's got a great cast. Ryan Gosling kills it. Rocky is probably going to be one of the greatest puppet characters ever created. Non-human characters ever created. And it's fantastic. And there's no like woke agenda or anything in there. We've got a male main character that does his thing, and we also have a strong female character in Strat, if you want to call her that. She's no BS, but for the most part, it's Ryan Gosling and his friend that he makes along the way, the problems that they solve, and the humor, the very human emotion behind it. And I don't think that there's a character like Rocky who literally is incapable of showing any emotions that emotes more, to the point where my old man, who is as stoic and old school as they come, when certain things happen in the movie, he was like, oh, no, it can't be. I hope this doesn't happen. That's a testament to a great movie right there. And it was very positive. It had moments, it had its ups and downs. It was humorous. It was serious. The stakes were high, and ultimately had a very satisfying ending. And it was just in an era where everything is so negative or everything's trying to be political. Gosh, it was such a breath of fresh air. It was fantastic. Even the book was that way. And I think it's incredible. And it is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And to me, I think Back to the Future or an E.T. is that kind of movie. That's really what it evokes. That sense, that feeling, that type of same feeling that you get into a movie where you're like, maybe it's not the greatest film ever made, but it's almost as close to a perfect movie as you can get, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it. And that's why I've watched it twice in theaters. Now I'll watch it again. And I can't wait for it to come out. It's going to be the only movie in recent years that I'm going to buy the best Blu-ray copy physical that I can get of it. And I can't wait to see if there are scenes that they cut that make it even better than it already is. But I highly recommend it to everybody. Don't spoil things if you haven't seen it. I think that the trailers, I was upset at first that the trailers spoiled certain things, but I can see why in today's era where it's so difficult to get people to go to movies, I can see why they had to spoil kind of the biggest teaser there. Because I remember when I listened to the audiobook first, when you reach that point where you're like, wait a second. This is not how I thought this was going to go. It was an awesome twist in a good way. And then it just took the story on a different trajectory than I expected. I was like, oh, humans saving the world from some crazy natural catastrophe. The sun's going to die. And which Sunshine is also one of my other favorite sci-fi movies, which is about the sun dying. And, they had to send the ship there. That was a thriller. Another, oh gosh, such an underrated movie. Sunshine is incredible. Definitely got to watch it if you haven't. I got to watch that movie again. That's one I need a physical copy of. But Project Hail Mary is fantastic. You guys have to watch it. If you have no spoilers, just go into it blind. It's even better. When the old man and I went on Sunday, a couple of our neighbors here, they seem to pop up every time I go out. It's this couple that lives near us there. It's like, hey, you guys are everywhere. But they ended up going there and they had no idea. They just went blind. They're like, we're just going to go on a movie date. We're going to look at the posters and we're just going to choose a movie randomly. And they did. And afterwards, they were just like, had no idea what to expect, had no idea what this was about. Incredible. And it seems like that's the reaction that a lot of people have had. They go in for Ryan Gosling and they come out and they're like, Rocky is what it's all about. And just, it's a great story. So, but yeah, when it comes to so many things now, once we win, like that's why I can't watch a lot of the stuff, even streams that I used to be a part of with people that, a lot of people that I like. I can't watch the content anymore because it's like what Cerberus said here. For the most part, I stopped watching because I already knew what they were going to say. If you're not searching for any sliver of wokeness, then you obviously support woke. That's ridiculous because there's always going to be a little bit of something that you don't like. And got to watch Father Goose with Cary Grant. Well, it's Cary Grant's in it. It's got to be good. Not everything's going to be perfect, and we become too puritanical about everything, and that's exactly how the left was. Yeah, there might be a twist here. There might be a twist there. Certain things are going to be ridiculous. Oh, if you give them an inch, we give them a mile. Some of it's not even like that. Some of it is literally like, hey, I just wanted to have this one thing, and that's it. And when it comes to video games, sometimes it's even more nuanced, right? Because you can have a game where they might throw in some woke stuff, but as a game, is the game fun and is it awesome? A game that I would take as an example like that I definitely do like, and I've got no bones about it, especially the first one, is Horizon Zero Dawn. Especially the first game. The second game definitely starts jumping on the woke bandwagon. But I would argue as a game, God bless America, do I love playing that game. Oh, robot dinosaurs and an awesome and a pretty original story. Like, let's be honest, like Horizon Zero Dawn story is pretty freaking cool, man. It's a primitive future with robotic animals. You can like Aloy or not, but the things you can do, the crafting, all that stuff. One of my favorite open world games of all time. Forbidden West ups the ante. Yeah, the story can be annoying. There's a lot of stuff there. Aloy, is she a Mary Sue in some ways, but there's an explanation for it. But I think it's a great game. From a gameplay perspective, it's awesome. I really enjoy Horizon. And I think a lot of people would never give it a chance because they're just like, oh, freaking Aloy. But how many dudes also grew up with it? When you can make a custom character, you choose to play as a chick. Maybe it's because you want to look at a chick too. I don't know, man. So sometimes we can't have it both ways. Now, I did get angry that they made Aloy a lot less attractive in the second game. That I don't like. I don't like when they do all this crap, when they take an actor or actress that is objectively attractive and they uglify her. That stuff pisses me off to no end. That's the kind of woke BS that I really don't like. But there are some games that, hey, you go in there and it's like, you know what, the game's freaking awesome. Like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, yeah, there's some annoying shit in there, but it's good. I put over 100 hours in Starfield. Objectively, Starfield is not that great, but there are parts of it that I really enjoyed. There were. As far as Bethesda's open world games, it's definitely on the lower tier, but there are moments and there are individual missions that I don't regret the time that I put into the game in that regard. You know, the gender thing at the beginning, as annoying as it was, and you're just like, F this crap. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, well, what am I going to do? I guess I just play Fortnite all day like I always do. Or just keep playing old school games and all this stuff. It's like you can never even try anything nowadays. And then if you admit to any of this, oh, blasphemy, look at this. Rolo's totally gay now because he likes this stuff. It's like, you know, I don't give a crap. And honestly, how many times did I give opinions on some of these panel shows that you guys have seen me on in the past, and it may have been contrary to what other people said, and did I ever give a shit about it? I was like, no. F you guys, I don't care. I liked it. I like the newer Tomb Raider games too. I didn't care if Melanie Mack was on the panel with me. And look, I love Melanie. Melanie's a great person. When you get to know her in person, fantastic. One of the nicest people I've ever met. Great. I love Melanie. She's awesome. But, you know, when she was crapping on Tomb Raider and even the newer God of War games, I'm like, look, Melanie, I disagree. I really don't care. I do like the new Tomb Raider games. I think they're good. But that's, you just gotta stand for what you like, right? Sometimes that's all it is, and it's not even a deeper agenda, right? It doesn't represent everything that you are, your fiber, your being. It's just like there are some movies that are objectively crap, and it's like your guilty pleasure, and you're like, yeah, this movie is garbage, but man, I love watching it every time. It could be campy. It could be horrible. It doesn't matter. You might like it. So I think too many people are afraid of being called out or, you know, all these other things. And that's part of what happened with the left, right? They intimidated us. They started pushing us. It's like, dude, as long as you're not like advocating to take away my rights or to destroy what I believe in, or you're not being blatantly disrespectful. If I disagree with you, I really don't care. And if you disagree with me, I really don't give a damn either. Because I know what I like. You can say it's utter crap. I don't mind. If some of you watch Project Hail Mary and you're like, Rolando, I think the movie was garbage. I hated it. I'd be like, hey, man, it's all good. I really don't care. Because I enjoyed it. And I'm going to keep enjoying it. And even a lot of movies, when we find out that the actor or actresses are woke after the fact, obviously there's certain circumstances where, like with Snow White, it's like they're so insufferable that you don't want these people to benefit from the money that you give them. It's a totally different circumstance. But if there are movies that you already loved and you later on find out that an actor or actress was woke as hell or they're a communist or anything like that, I don't think that that should necessarily change your opinion on that movie or that piece of entertainment that you liked. Now, in the future, you can choose like, hey, I don't really care at this point. I'm not going to support them. Totally get that. I've done that many times. I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing so. But you shouldn't let it take away the enjoyment that you have for certain things. You shouldn't you shouldn't allow people to make you feel bad about that. And at the same time, when we start getting W's, we can't become so puritanical and nitpicky that we just hate on everything because it looks like we have no solutions whatsoever. And that's why there's really nobody that I respect more in this space than Eric July. Because Eric July is one of the few people, and Jay is up there too, Drunk 3PO, that they put their money where their mouth is. They created their own art and their own entertainment, their own books, their own comics, their own stories, and they put it out there. And they allowed that work to be judged, and a lot of it is legitimately great. But they went out and did it. Rather than just sitting all day and just complaining or finding nitpicky things, even when the industry starts changing and things go there, yeah, but it's not 100% perfect. There's still like one thing in there. It's like, no, man, we've got to show, first of all, when people start turning the right direction, we do have to show them grace, or else you're never going to win anyone back. That's the first thing. You shouldn't make people feel stupid when they start waking up. There was nothing better for me when I got into political commentary and Second Amendment commentary back in the day than seeing people who were completely opposed to me, who hated guns, who thought that I should have my guns taken away, that when they actually sat down and gave a fair shake or actually said, you know what, I'm going to listen to this guy's argument. Let's see what he has to say. And that they became convinced. There wasn't one time where I said, well, you were just a damn retard for all these years and you can go F yourself. Or, now you see it, F you, now you feel the pain. No, there are very few circumstances. I can't think of any circumstance where I did that unless I knew somebody was being disingenuous or I knew for a fact that basically they had their own people turn on them, or I knew they were going for the grift because they're like, hey, I'm just going to switch sides here and be a turncoat because the money's better on the other side, which we're seeing a lot of that nowadays, and especially in the political side. But when you see people that made the genuine change, that you convinced them with your argument, or even they saw like, man, yeah, I just didn't really understand before, and now I get it. You got to show them grace. You got to be like, hey, welcome to the rebellion, right? Like you're part of it now. Hopefully you've matured enough that you understand, and that you're going to stay on this side. You're not just going to turn tail when things get difficult, and you're legitimately going to stand up for what you believe in now and what you enjoy. That's really what we're looking for here, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we want to see from people. We want to see people cross the aisle or become educated and learn, because how many people just don't know what they don't know? I mean, those of us that look at it, right, we grew up in the education system. This is a discussion that I had with the old man earlier, because, I tell him, I was like, look, a lot of these first-time Trump voters, they're not happy with a lot of this stuff. They're not happy with the war in Iran. They're not happy about the Epstein list. They don't understand the things that Trump is doing. Some of them feel deceived or betrayed. And he's like, well, they should know better. There's a bigger game here, or this is the big picture and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, look, not everybody grew up in the environment that I did, where I had a good conservative family. My parents have been together for more than 40 years. I grew up, being raised Christian, even though in the last few years, it's really when I've become much more religious. And even my entire family, we've gone to church, and we hadn't gone to church in a long time. But we had the moral foundation. I had the family support. My father is a veteran. I've seen all that positive stuff. I grew up conservative. So I've already seen a lot of the big picture. I've become more libertarian or independent minded as I've grown up, but I already had a pretty logical foundation to get me where I am. But if you're somebody that maybe you came from a bad family, maybe you grew up in a liberal family, maybe you weren't religious, you were just exposed to a lot of negative stuff, and then you voted for Trump because you're like, my goodness, I see all these terrible things that the left and the deep state have done. And this now, this is the first guy that I've seen that is saying the things that I want to hear, or agreeing, with the perspective that I now know is the truth. Like I now know this is exactly what we got to do. And they see that things aren't going the way they were. It's like, well, think about it. That's like a person that's been abused their entire life, and they've got this emotional trauma, so to speak. And then things don't go perfectly. So they already don't trust as it is, because it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, that kind of thing. They're going to have a lot lower of a threshold. They're going to be a lot more sensitive to when hard times come. So you've got to balance that out. And ultimately, that's a huge portion of the coalition, especially the younger portion of the coalition of what we'll call like the MAGA, America First coalition, whatever you want to call it. So they're not going to trust the GOP. They voted for Trump. They didn't vote for the Republican Party. So he's got to balance all of this thing out. And I know this has become like a crazy 2-hour opening monologue and everything like that. Yeah, Forgotten Man, you took the words right out of my mouth. I just looked at the clock and I was like, holy cow. I came into this basically like, I don't even know really what I'm going to talk about tonight, because it seems like it's the same garbage that's been going on for weeks and months now. So it's really, that's been the tougher thing about going back into the rants. It's that I don't want to get into the grift of like, let's just be negative all the time. Let's talk about all this. Because after a while, it's true. It's like, I've got the solutions. I know what we need to do, but the solutions are out of our control at one point. It's the same thing that we've always had, right? Prepare for the worst. Get your supplies. Buy your guns and ammo. Diversify your investments. Get closer with your family and your community and people that you can trust. Find your faith in God and have that moral compass, because ultimately that's the only truth that you're going to find. Everybody's going to lie at some point. Everybody will fail you. Nobody is infallible except for our Lord and Savior. And so that's the only place that you're going to find some sort of truth and foundation in this world. And even then, if you're led astray by the wrong people that mentor you and all of that, you may find yourself disheartened and discouraged at some point. But don't become depressed. I don't want to see anyone get depressed. You can be discouraged, but being discouraged, think about what's part of discouraged: courage. So remove the dis and find your courage and move forward and have faith, because ultimately we're not fighting our battles for everything that's on this world. We're fighting our battles for what comes afterwards. And so if you can live a good life and you can be a good man or a good woman, or at least as good as you can be, because there's nobody that's really good except for Jesus, but being as moralistic as you can be, trying to run on the straight and narrow, asking for forgiveness when you fail, because we all fail. We're all sinners. We all fail. Hopefully we all learn and we repent and along the way, and we don't repeat the same mistakes that we've made, and we don't go down a path of selfishness and evil. But we're all going to fall from time to time. We're all going to feel bad. We're not just fighting a physical war, an intellectual war here. It really is a spiritual battle. And that's why even when you have the utmost of faith, there are days when you wake up and you're just like, man, I just really feel like crap. I'm really upset about things that didn't go my way, or I really am upset that these people may have slighted me, or I didn't get that promotion, or that these politicians are stealing everything. And you know that for a long time you're like, man, but I have so many things to be grateful for. And I think that's one of the keys right there. It really is gratitude. We need to have gratitude for the things that we have in this life, because so much is negativity. Think about that. That's really what this rant has been about, right? There's so much negativity out there, and sometimes it's difficult. Like, I didn't even want to do this rant because I'm like, everything sucks and everybody sucks. That's how I felt before I started this rant. So, but I think that's what it is. We've got to have gratitude. We do have to find some of that silver lining, because ultimately there is so much that is out of our control. There are many things which we do control. There are a lot of ways that we can make a difference. But at some point, we are just individuals that are in this sea with everybody else. And when you think about it, at the end of the day, 200 years from now, everybody that's alive today, even maybe 100 years from now, but let's make it 200 years to be a little bit safer. Maybe we'll find some keys to unlocking extreme longevity. But let's say 200 or 300 years from now, everybody that is alive today is going to be dead. And what they did to you, what they said to you, what you did to somebody else, on this world, it will be mostly irrelevant. And it'll be irrelevant to you, honestly. Whether you go to heaven or hell, you're not going to be too worried about what happened while you were alive. Now, if you go to the inferno, then you're probably going to have a lot of regrets. But hopefully that's not how it ends up. But think about that. Everybody at the end of the day is going to die. And so how you choose to face that and how you choose to live your life is really what's important. So have gratitude, embrace the positive things that are in your life, take control of what you have, of what you can, be vigilant, be responsible. But ultimately, that's where you have to go. What sucks but very funny is being a meme because of not getting a gifted membership. I laugh at it because it's true. Poor TFM never gets a gifted membership. Somebody's got to give some gifts and hope that TFM can get it one day, because this man deserves a gifted sub. I wish you could give like personal gifted subs, because TFM is the one. He's an MVP over here. So, thank you, Honduras. I appreciate you, Cerberus, all of that. So, that's pretty much what I've got for this rant. I didn't know where I was going to go or how it was going to end up, but I wanted to talk a little bit about, I spoke about Project Hail Mary a little bit and what I thought about it. Another great piece of entertainment that I really don't hear anyone talk about, especially in like our space. I don't know what our space is. What do you want to call it? The Nerdrotic Fellowship, Critical Drinker, Nexus, non-woke commentary space. I don't even know what it is anymore, or because it seems like we're Legion more than ever. So it's expanded beyond the borders of even where it was a couple of years ago, almost becoming mainstream. And that's why now we're seeing so much division in certain places, because it's like, it's a sink or swim. The people that are genuine are going to rise up, and the people that are doing good, positive things are going to succeed. And then the people that are grifting are just going to get tired of it at some point. But it is for all mankind. Oh man, For All Mankind is awesome. That is one of my favorite shows that I've ever watched. And I think year over year, it's been getting better and better and better. So if you don't, I get it. All these streaming services are a pain in the ass. I only ever get Apple TV when For All Mankind is coming back. Season 5 is going to start on this Friday, I believe, is when it's going to go live. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's going to be Friday, or this week. It's going to premiere. Highly recommend it. It is an alternate history show where the Soviet Union lands on the moon before the United States, and all the repercussions of the space race afterwards. Basically accelerating human technology, because the U.S. is like, well, hey, we weren't the first to land on the moon. The communists got there. We really have to try hard. Whereas in our reality, we were the only ones that landed on the moon. No one ever tried again. And without competition, we get stagnation. And now we see how that's changing, right? We see the threat of China trying to get back to the moon, trying to catch up to us and pass us. China is the only country right now that has their own independent space station, which only 2 other countries have been able to do in history, which was ourselves and the Soviet Union. Now we've got the ISS, but that's an international space station. That's not a United States space station. The Chinese have their own space station. So, but now I'm heartened to see that we've got Artemis 2 that's going to go orbit the moon coming up hopefully next week, God willing. My prayers are with the astronauts that are going to be embarking on that mission, everyone at NASA. We've got SpaceX kicking butt. We've got Jared Isaacson, who I think is a fantastic NASA director, trying to push us in that future with nuclear-powered rockets, which you get to see all of that, and for all mankind, it seems like that's the trajectory that we're going. And really, for all mankind, if you ever watched The Expanse, which Expanse is another top-notch science fiction franchise. I wish the show had kept going on, but there was going to be a massive time jump of like 20 or 30 years, so I understand why they didn't want to continue the show. It really feels like it's becoming a true prequel to The Expanse, combining some of our history with alternate history and moving in the same trajectory that led to The Expanse with the Earth and Mars being independent nations. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend checking it out. If you can get like a free trial to Apple TV, it's got 5 seasons. Ronald D. Moore, who is one of the producers of Star Trek The Next Generation and who was the primary producer on Battlestar Galactica, which is my top science fiction franchise of all time, the newer Battlestar Galactica. I believe he did the first 4 or 5 seasons. I'm not sure if he's the showrunner anymore. I think he's just in an advisory role now, but season 5 still looks excellent. I think they're going to go to 6 or 7, and then the arc is going to finally finish, because pretty much what the show is doing is it's got 8 to 10 year time jumps between each season. A lot of our characters, we see them when they're young, and now they're like in their 80s at this point, because it started in the space race era in the 60s, and I believe that this season's now gotten up to like 2010, the 2010s. And I think the showrunners said that their ultimate objective is to finish the show when it catches up to modern times. So whenever that happens, 2030 or something like that, I would suppose. So check it out if you love science fiction, even drama, fantastic show. It's got it all. Check it out. I love it. I will probably do, I think it'll be the first show that I do some episode recaps after each episode comes, and I'll try to do some sort of summarization of all the seasons if I can beforehand. But at a minimum, I'm going to do season 5 episode reactions, because it's going to be 1 episode per week after the premiere. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if I'll do those as like a live reaction or I'll pre-record it. It kind of depends. There's a lot of things I'm trying to do here now, and get out a lot more, but I'm going to keep the rants and the family gaming streams for sure on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And I'd like to add another stream. I don't know if it'll always be on Sundays, because weekends are at a premium here, but I know that you guys seem to have liked the single player / co-op streams that I was doing. So we'll look to do that next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, the first weekend of April, I'm going to be going to the Puerto Rico Comic Con. I don't have anything special going on. I'm not like a VIP or have a booth or anything like that. But I'm going to try to film as much of it as I can. They're really strict compared to like MegaCon when it comes to that. Unfortunately, I keep saying that I want to go to MegaCon, but it's completely reliant on when MegaCon falls in the year, because I need somebody here in Puerto Rico to take care of the cats for me, because traveling on planes with 3 cats, especially as an individual, is logistically impossible and very very stressful for them. So unfortunately, it looks like MegaCon is going to be at the end of May next year, so there's probably no way that I'll be able to make it to MegaCon. Who knows for how long, unless I move back to Florida. So as much as I'd love to see you guys at MegaCon, I don't think that's not something I'm going to promise. I don't foresee that happening, but hopefully the next time I go back to South Florida, I'll be making a trip to Orlando, and if people are there, maybe we can do something, and we'll try to do that. So that's the kitten alarm going off. The cats are trained to go to bed, so that's time for Lucy and Mr. Moo to go to bed. But Forgotten Man TFM wants to come to Puerto Rico. Well, if any of you are going to the Puerto Rico Comic Con, let me know and shoot me a DM or something, or make a comment, and maybe we can meet up at the Comic Con. So it looks like it's going to be good. There aren't as many like celebrity guests. I can bring up their website real quick and we can check it out. It's a legit, and it's a nice conference center. There's a lot of vendors and things like that. It might be pretty cool, because one thing that I've noticed with Puerto Rico that I really love is that Puerto Rico, in a lot of great ways, seems to be like stuck in the 90s. So people still go out and do things. There's still Pizza Huts, and the Pizza Huts are awesome. A lot of these old franchises are still alive. Like, it really does feel like America in the 1990s and early 2000s. And I love it. And so maybe this Comic-Con is going to be like how older Comic-Cons were before they got really crazy. I mean, MegaCon is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. And I think it's because MegaCon isn't the San Diego Comic-Con. So it's still not the number one con out there, but it's gotten pretty huge. And I heard that the last couple of years have really been massive. So I don't know, you guys can tell me. I haven't been there since like 2023. So, but I'm looking forward to this and letting you guys see how it is. I mean, they don't really have that many people. They got Ron Perlman. They got the voice of Goku. Vivian Medrano, I don't know who she is, and like a few other people. So not anything crazy. Just cosplay stuff. They've got the itinerary now going on, and all the exhibitors. So we finally have that. But the conference center and where this is located in San Juan is freaking sweet. It's like a combination of like Miami and Orlando, and it should be a lot of fun. So I'm probably going to do some exploring there, because I'm not going to spend the entire day at like a con both days. I'll probably stay in the area and go around San Juan. There's a really awesome venue called what is it? It's like a T-Mobile outdoor venue with like, it looks like something you'd see in Dubai, with like ceilings made of screens and like zip lining between restaurants and bars and all this stuff. It's really awesome. So looking forward to that, and getting out and exploring more. So that's something that you'll definitely see a lot more. I love going around the island, hiking in the jungle, doing all that stuff. So I definitely want to do one of the excursions that I did with my cousins back in early January, where we went tubing down a river. We had to jump. We had to go inside this bat-filled cave after hiking like 2 miles through the jungle near the massive satellite dish that was in the end of GoldenEye, the Arecibo Observatory. And it was hardcore, man. It was awesome. We had to like ford the river, and it was freezing. We swam and bathed under waterfalls, and then in the end, we ended up in this massive cavern. Jumped off the side of the cavern back into the river, and then went through like 3 caves in this river back the way that we came, and then had to climb and hike out of the jungle. And then these homeless dogs came and like escorted us back, and it was sweet. It was one of those experiences that you're like, this is what it's freaking about, man. So I'll definitely film that more properly. I've got some B-roll footage with it with my cousins, but it's not the quality that I would want. But I'll post that on Roaming with Rolo. I want to learn how to surf and all this stuff, so you guys can watch me wipe out one day and make fun of me, but it's going to be fun. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out on this 39th episode of Rolo's Rants. Who knows what next week will bring? I don't know. We'll see what it is. The rants about politics and all this stuff become more difficult to do all the time. So we'll just be having the conversations about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and whatever interests us. Bring the questions, bring the super chats. I know I didn't really, you know how I am when I get on this roll, I just let it go. But next time we can do more of an Ask Me Anything kind of thing and more back and forth, because I love hearing what you guys have to say and do. I will be back tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time with La Familia. We're going to be playing the new season of Fortnite. I didn't even get to talk about Epic Games laying off 1,000 people and not making enough money. And is this going to be the end of Fortnite as we know it and live service games? I don't know. I'm still having fun. I got a nice dub yesterday while the old man was watching, and hopefully we can get more dubs tomorrow. I do kind of like the rivalry system that's going on, but maybe we'll have to choose a new game. It seems like you guys like Arc Raiders and all this other stuff. Commander got me Night Rain, and I feel terrible because I still haven't played it yet. I'm horrendous with these Dark Souls types of games. So I don't know how that is. I did get all the new DLC for Ready or Not. Maybe we can get the F team back together, but I know Mike and Disprue are big time more than ever, and those guys are busy. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have to get the old man to get Ready or Not, and you guys can enjoy watching that. But anyway, thank you all for hanging out. Share the show, like the stream. That's all I got. Have a great night. Good luck. God bless you all. God bless America. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you, Den Hawken, The Forgotten Man, Cerberus, Honduras, Novella Princess, A2D2, Chrysanth, Axed, JM the Elite Fan, Cerberus, did I already say Cerberus? Old Renaissance Boomer, Comic Misconceptions, where was he at tonight? We missed you, buddy. And everybody else that was lurking in the chat, thank you all so much for hanging out.